Hi everyone, this is Michael Harp. I wanted to come on and say hi to everyone. I have some interesting information that someone pointed out to me from, it had been channeled from Magenta Pixie, but it is some amazing information and I couldn't help but want to come on and share it because it correlates with the work that I do. And in fact, it is absolutely something that we are all needing to know and understand. And it's all about our ascension process. What is going to make our ascension process the easiest and most effortless in the coming days, weeks, and even years maybe? We're all on this path, right? And the first thing I want to talk about is a question I get a lot in my sessions with people who want to speak with their higher self and to gain a better understanding of who they are and why they're here is, most importantly, to understand that we are here to remember who we are. And I can't say this strongly enough, to remember who we are. Now, the majority of us, if not all of us, I think there's very few that are not starseeds that are attracted to the information that I share, that I work with, and especially with what Magenta Pixie is doing. So if you've been wondering if you're a starseed, or in Dolores Cannon's world, she utilized the term volunteers or the third wave of volunteers. Also, Magenta utilized the term indigos a lot, and indigos was a word that I learned, 20, 30 years ago, which is a type of energy that people come in with, and they are the disruptors from the old paradigm into the new paradigm. I can tell everyone I am certainly a indigo. Don't tell me what to do. That's all I can say is don't tell me what to do, because indigos have this energy that when you tell them what to do, they kind of, question. They are questioners. They don't go with the status quo necessarily. Now, with that being said, I have struggled with my own belief systems that I've come in with, my own DNA, ancestral DNA that gives you certain criteria that you live within. So for me, I was a people pleaser. So I would do a lot to please people, but when it really got down to a core disconnect for me, where I was like, boy, I can't people please these people anymore because it's making me uncomfortable, it would be really fairly easy for me to disconnect and push away from that. Now, I will say that it's the easiest to disconnect when you are not emotionally involved with them. So like coworkers, it's easier than say like family. It takes a lot more for you to push away someone that you are that emotionally connected to. But that's what we're here to do, is to remember who we are, to clear out all these beliefs and programmings, the dogmas that we have assumed throughout our lifetime, throughout our past lifetimes, throughout our ancestral experiences, and through our monad group, which is our spiritual family. And there's layers upon layers upon layers of this disprogramming, this releasing, this transforming of old beliefs and clearing up your energetic field that we are really being called to do. Now, when we go through that process, that is what creates a lot of the waking up symptoms, the ascension symptoms, which are, all of a sudden you can't eat certain foods. Sometimes we find ourselves completely disconnected and find ourselves moved to a different location. We have new family and friends. We find ourselves in new places. We find ourselves less and less able to put up with the old stuff that we used to be able to put up with much easier. And this is just the process that we are going through. We're cleaning ourselves up energetically. So with that being said, that is why we're here, to remember who we are. And there's so much behind that statement, because we are so much grander and greater than our our consciousness that's here experiencing being a human, can sometimes really comprehend. I mean, if you look at and think about your spiritual team and how we really look up to them, now contemplate the idea that you are just as much, if not grander, than those that are assisting you. That you are on par with all the spiritual team that is assisting you right now. That you are on par with archangels, ascended masters, these beings that are here to assist us are our family. And in many cases, they are us. They're just the greater, grander part of us that isn't able to quite filter all the way down into this physical being that we're experiencing right now. The game that we're in right now on Earth is to be birthed into an environment where we don't remember that. And the challenge, the whole setup here is for us to remember it once we're embodied, to pull back the screen, to look deeper, to learn how to trust ourselves, to remember, like I said, who we are. And with that comes sovereignty. That sovereignty, can you imagine, like king and queens, they have sovereigns, like that is their whole kingdom, right? They are in charge of that. You are sovereign of your domain here, your body. You're sovereign. Nobody else can tell you what to do. Nobody else can influence you at a core level without your permission. And that's really important, without your permission. All right, so with all that being said, I want to get to this YouTube video that Magenta Pixie did. And I'm going to put her link down below. I need to write myself a note. Magenta Pixie link. And in this, she talks about there's a 3-step process to Stargate Ascension, especially while we're in lockdown. But this really applies to any time, every time, right now, especially. You'll have to forgive me. I'm just really wanting to make sure that I present this in the most positive way possible. And I'm laughing because I have this hair. Is anyone else having hair issues? Like I took to the scissors this morning, cutting away on hair because I have no hairdresser to cut my hair. And I cannot be the only one, right? I'm starting to see that on YouTube where moms are coming out with scissors to their kids. But it's just me and it's my husband, and I'm not going to have him cut my hair. Oh my God. Actually, I usually cut my hair a lot, but definitely suffering in this time where it'd be so much easier to go have someone else do this. Sorry, slight distraction. Getting back to the 3-step process. So I had taken some notes, and I just want to, because I wanted to make sure I got the key components here that she talks about. Early in the YouTube, she talks about the different timelines, and I'm not going to get too much into these timelines. They can be important to understand as much as we are capable of understanding them with honestly, our limited consciousness within this physical being. You know, the more you meditate, the more you tap into these energies consistently, the easier it is to understand these concepts. But every time I feel like I've got my fingers on it and starting to comprehend it, I learn something new and it kind of gets blown away. So I try not to put too much emphasis or value on how I'm comprehending them in the moment, because I know that there's another layer to it that I'm not quite understanding yet. So until I feel like I really know what I'm talking about, I don't want to get into it too much. But let's just say that there are different timelines that are going on. And as an example, if people have ever gone to a psychic and gotten information and it did not come true, that's because there are different timelines that can happen. And whatever timeline they linked into that they saw just did not come about. And when they do link into these different timelines, they all have different percentages of actually coming true. It's pretty rare to have one predominant timeline that is an absolute. There's always exceptions to that. So, right, just bear with me that there's just percentages. And I've actually had clients with higher selves. It gives me percentages for their clients going, this is 36% chance of that, 83% chance of that, 12% of that. And I know that didn't add up to 100. But as an example, there are many different options that we can all choose. So Magenta is talking about 3 predominant timelines that are going on, which is, if I understood her correctly here, the old Earth timeline, which is as they separate more and more, the old Earth timeline is going to be the predominantly service to self type of individuals that are going to be staying on the old Earth. Then there's the new Earth, those that are service to others who are remembering who they are, who are connecting into the consciousness of our unity, are going towards the new Earth. But there's also the Trinity, which is right now we're still experiencing all 3 of these at once. All right. Now, the teaching that she shares with us is a teaching to able to access the Ascension timeline, the new Earth timeline, as quickly as possible, as easily as possible, as smoothly as possible. Because while those are the 3 main timelines, there's a lot of little other timelines that can happen for you individually based on what you are experiencing, based on how quickly and diligently you're cleaning up your personal emotional traumas, the things that are coming up and bubbling up within you. And for those who are diligently doing this work, in this process, and many of us are already doing these 3 steps, right? But I loved how she laid this out. I loved how she laid it out, because this is in many ways the work that I've been doing with clients for years and years. But I loved how she laid it out to the simplicity for us to be able to recognize the things that are within this, for us to know and accept, so that we can have that smoothest possible timeline of moving into our ascension. All right. So I'm catching up here. Step 1. Let's talk about the 3 steps. Step 1 is to understand the dark plan. All right. I remember for myself, this came into my reality a couple decades ago, about the idea that there was an agenda that's happening on this earth that is not for the benefit of the majority of life on earth. And right now, if you are anywhere on the internet and Facebook and have friends who are woke or awakening, they are more than eager to share so much information about this darker, seedier side of what is going on. I am not in denial that it is there. I will admit I don't put my focus on it a lot. And there's personal reason for that. I'm going to share this story. When I was, let's see, it was in 92. My son had been born, and he was still an infant in that stage of waking up a lot at night. He's turning 28 this week. Oh. Anyway, so he's an infant, and he's waking up a lot at night. I had been reading a lot about alien abduction. And also at that time in 92, they were talking a lot about the Earth having some major catastrophes, Earth shifts that would literally lose grand masses of land on the West Coast, which I just happen to be living on the West Coast. And at that time, I wasn't nearly as mature as I am now, having had the experience to realize that I was falling deeper and deeper into the fear of these potentials, the fear of these massive land changes that they were talking about. And there was a part of it that was really feeling like truth to me. But I had no idea about timelines at that time. I really didn't have any idea that, I mean, there were so many things I just did not know. I was just really new to it all. And I was falling deeper and deeper into the fear. And with the alien abduction, you know, being up in the middle of the night with my son, I would look at the windows and I would have great fear about what happens if some alien came into my window and, you know, wanted to abduct me or my child. And, you know, as a mother, your protective instincts come up and your fear really rises within that scenario. And I found myself really falling deeper and deeper into this vast pit of fear and what ifs. And I had an experience. I woke up early in the morning and I had a vision, and I've had few true visions that like this was. I mean, like it was a movie for me. And in this vision, I was shown a spider web and how I was getting caught in the spider web. This vision inspired me in my work of deciphering dreams, because at the time I really didn't even understand what it was showing me. It was a spider web. There was a few other components to it, but I really had to do a lot of research on understanding the metaphoric aspects of this vision that I had received. But when I figured it out, I knew immediately that that's it. That is what has happened, is that I have fallen into the trap, into the web of this fear web. And unless I stepped away from my obsession of learning more or controlling my fear, and the only way at that time that I really knew how to control it was to step away from it a bit, it was going to be very detrimental for me. And I knew that. So I dropped everything. It's like I knew the concepts were there. But even now when I look at those concepts like fear abduction, I look at it so much differently. I don't look at that with fear anymore, because I see the alien abduction as it's a beautiful thing in a lot of ways, because it's most of the time it's us kidnapping ourselves to do the work that we're here to do. I had no idea of that concept back then. So I stepped away from it, though, staying with the story. I stepped away because I needed to get out of the fear matrix. And I did do that. I still had the knowledge. I still had the awareness of it. I didn't deny that it existed. So in step one of Magenta's information is that you have to understand the dark plan. You have to be cognizant of its existence there. And she even says you don't need to go into deep analysis, just be aware and acknowledge it. Who are they? What are they doing? And why are they doing? And I'm not even going to go into those right now, because that's not really my specialty. I'm just acknowledging that I see them. I know them. I recognize that they are there. The trick here is to not fall into the fear matrix that they have created. And they have created this to keep us under control. They have created this to keep us from understanding who we truly are. Because when you realize who you truly are, you are not subjected to their fear matrix. Okay? And she, just a couple points that she covered in step one. And she's funny. She talks about how indigos want to analyze and are good to assist the more sensitive crystals. And being an indigo, that's what I was, in 92. I was really analyzing this. I was really going deep into it without having a lot of resources, though, at that time to give me a bigger picture, because we didn't have the internet then, okay? All we had were published books that I could take home and read. Did we have the internet then? If we did, it was very, very limited. very limited. It certainly wasn't something that I would be able to research at that time on the internet. All right, so here's a really important part about step one is once you understand the dark plan is to integrate the emotions that you're having about that dark plan, because a lot of emotions are going to come up. And just as I described my own experience, I had fallen into fear. And so I had to find a way to deal with that fear. And at that time, that was the only way I knew how to deal with that fear, was to walk away and focus on something else so that I wasn't consumed into the rabbit hole of fear. Now, you know, this is the part that I actually do a lot with clients, is integrating emotions, integrating past emotional trauma, releasing the programming, getting past the dogma. And that is really important about this step one, is to understand it without being consumed by it, by not allowing yourself to get into a reactionary state about it. And here's something else I'm going to share with you about reactionary states is, you know, I just published a video about the questions somebody had given me, and one of them was, how can someone who lies and is so self-centered be admired by the Americans? I assumed it was Trump that we were speaking about, and I did a whole video about this, right? And in that video, my intention is always to tread the line of observing this. I used oracle cards, and it was the message really seemed to be about looking behind the front image and understanding that there's always much more going on behind the scenes than we realize. And most importantly, not to judge what is and isn't happening, right? So I got an email minutes after I sent out the email myself, sending out this video, from a past client who took it very personally and literally attacked me about my attack on President Trump. Now, I did not attack President Trump. I did not attack anybody. I had a question, wasn't even my question. I am answering questions that I feel that everybody else might want to also understand a deeper backstory about. And the reaction from him was very strong, very powerful. There was quite a few curse words within the email I received from him. And he immediately asked to be taken off my distribution list. Not a problem. You can take yourself off my distribution list with one click. I do not question that. If my words and my message is not for you, please take your stuff and go home. That's fine. My message is for those who want the message. I am not here to force my message on anyone. All right? But he demonstrated to me how he is in complete reactionary emotions instead of being able to observe something and stand in his own power. And he thinks he's being in his power because he rejected me. But what he did was he lived in duality. He lived in the duality of pushing away something that he doesn't like, that he perceived he didn't like, because I responded to him even saying, I don't think you even listened to the message or understood what I was trying to say. But I did thank him for making me aware that I need to be clearer in how I present information to other people, because there are these very quick ways that we judge information and make assumptions about it. So that reactionary, though, that really, really quick reaction, that's an emotional trigger. That is duality in full force. And it's why he had to be in duality, why he had to react like that, that needs resolution to be able to look at truth without it hurting him. I hope that makes sense. That we can look at the truth without it having to hurt us. Because when we take a higher perspective, when we realize who we truly are and what a grand game scheme this all is. We don't have to feel hurt. We can take our power. And I love this because step 2 of Magenta's 3-step plan is about claiming our sovereignty, a declaration of sovereignty. Love, love, love this. I use this a lot in when I'm working with clients about having them speak their truth, about them speaking about releasing things, speaking what they want, because the power of the voice is the power of vibration, and everything we manifest, everything that creates and is existing around us is a type of vibration. Everything. If you want to search something and have amazing days, look up semantics. It's mind-boggling. Sovereignty, the declaration of sovereignty, because it's all about when we give our permission to do something. So if you remember, step 1 is to understand the dark plan. Step 2 is we are laying down our boundaries. The cabal, if you want to call them that, has shown us what they are doing. If you don't stand against it, you're giving them permission. So you must make a declaration of sovereignty, and you can say it or write it. She gave the recommendation that Laura Eisenhower has done a video. She called it Message to the Dark Controllers. I haven't had a chance to actually watch this myself yet, but I have had another client. Well, actually, the client that recommended that I watch this, she had shared her declaration that she's used for decades also. So I'm not going to go into the declaration, a specific declaration right this time, because I think I'm going to do a different video about that. Right now, I just want to cover these steps, and I knew it would be long enough just going over these steps. But for referral, you can check out Laura Eisenhower's Message to the Dark Controllers. Within it, it's essentially whatever you do is you're declaring your sovereignty, that you do not give permission. And as an example that I wrote down, she said, I do not give permission for vaccines. I do not consent to having someone or something else controlling me. I do not give permission for microchips or any control plan. I do not give permission for the earth to be controlled. And that's important, because even though Gaia has her own energy, her own consciousness, that's leaving. As we move into this new earth, we are going to be responsible for the earth. So we have the right to say for the earth to not be controlled. We do not give permission for anything. She calls these dominions, control of the earth. Claim your sovereignty. I am sovereign, and I do not give permission for this. Fill in the blank, whatever it is. And it's really important, because this is solar plexus power, right? We're here to clean up all these past emotional traumas, like I said, the beliefs, the programming. But it's really important as we do this, what we're doing is we're clearing up our chakras. Our chakras are kind of dirty. It's like having a car that's never had an oil change. And when we're cleaning up these emotional issues that we have emotional reactions to, or emotional triggers to, that cause us to feel unease, that is the number one symptom that something needs to be looked at and can be released. And as that's released, it cleans up our chakras. And as our chakras get cleaned up, then more powerful, cleaner energy gets poured into us for us to be living with and through and for. All right. So whatever you want to declare as your sovereignty, like I declare that I am responsible for me. No one else can control my life. I do not give permission for vaccines. I do not give permission for anything that takes away my sovereign power. I do not fall into fear matrices. I do not. And I'm saying a lot of I do nots, right? I'm just wanting to make sure I'm not stepping ahead. Yeah. So a lot of, sorry, Magenta brought up that idea that some people are resistant to saying I do not, because if you understand the law of attraction gives you whatever you're focused on, right? So when I say I do not want to be controlled, energy only hears controlled. Now, my take of the law of attraction is it's energy matches energy, which means that I'm standing in my sovereign power of strength without fear. I'm not in fear. I'm not attracting fear. I'm not trying to control anyone else. I'm controlling myself. I am demanding respect for who I am. And that is the energy that I am sending out. I'm not sending out fear, which to me is how the law of attraction works. The law of attraction works on your energy, your feeling, your emotions, that gut feeling you have. Because you can say all day long, I am strong, I am strong, I am strong. But if you're doing it from a weak emotional point, that's not what the energy that's going to be attracted to you. You're feeling weak. That's what's going to be attracted. When you're strong, when you are in your power of knowingness, that's a whole different game. Now, Magenta, as she goes into 3, she talks about how this declaration, as you're doing it in sovereignty, neutralizes any negativity and turns it into the positive. To me, it's an energy of how you're doing it. If you're doing it from a weak, energetic stance, then you are going to not be believed, right? I mean, have you met those people that say one thing, but you don't believe them? It's because their energy isn't in match with their words. When your words match your energy, that's where the power is. So moving on to step number 3 for Magenta's 3-step process. Number 3 turns your declaration of sovereignty into this contract. It neutralizes the negative. But it's through the forgiveness and gratitude that you can send to those in control that takes away their power. And I want to let that sink in. Are you at a state where you can feel gratitude, forgive them, and allow yourself to feel love for the idea of the whole concept of this game that we're playing? And this is the biggest step for so many of us, is to be able to get to this higher level of a perspective to understand that we can sit in love, in appreciation for the darkest deeds, and know that by doing that, we're not giving our permission to that, because we've already declared sovereignty. We don't want that. But we can be in gratitude and understanding that we are all interconnected, that these beings that are doing things in a negative way have a long story behind them. And the further you go back into that story, the more you realize that we all come from the same beginning. And in some ways, they are our family from our energetic beginnings. And to be able to forgive them as we would family. Again, not giving permission. Again, recognizing that it's not what we want. We've declared our sovereignty. But we can stand opposite of them and feel an energetic love and appreciation for how far we have come, for the game that we are playing, for the beauty of realizing that we can create an end to this, by finding neutrality, peace with their actions. It's this huge step, right? I mean, I even have a hard time trying to describe this, but it's about going into your own divinity and seeing their divinity. And if that's easier to view them with love and appreciation, do whatever it takes to get to that point. Because when you can forgive, when you can get to the place of loving and accepting all that is, what that does is it feeds assistance to remove these layers so much faster. And this is, I think, the hardest concept for so many of us who live in duality, because what they're asking us to do, and listen to this, what they're asking us to do is to move out of duality and into the 5D mindset that we are all one, that we all come from the same space. And at a very long ago factor, we were brothers and sisters. They're family. And it's only with the love energy, forgiveness and acceptance, not acceptance that it's right, not acceptance that it should be done, but acceptance of their own higher selves. Acceptance that we've all made mistakes. Acceptance that we too have had lifetimes where we didn't make the best decisions. And in some ways, what it really feels like is like we hand over to our higher selves the power and ability to utilize the energy for the highest good of all. It's really what we're asking for. When we give love and acceptance, forgiveness, is we're saying, take whatever energy I have and utilize this. Use this power in a way that benefits the most in the highest manner possible. Because as humans, it's hard down here to really see and understand from that higher perspective what's really going on. But boy, when we can step into our love, because we have that power, we're sovereign. We may not be, we don't want that. But I know that if I talk to my spiritual team, who I instruct specifically, only those for my highest good may utilize this energy. And I say, here, take this energy and apply it to the best solution of all concerned. Through my love, through my forgiveness, through my acceptance that I am part of God, just as they are. It's hard to see it down here, but I know there's a part of them that's connected to the same source that I am. And I want to put my awareness, my forgiveness, my love, because I truly believe it's like watering the solution. We're giving it a source. We're giving it the fuel. We're supercharging the solution by doing this. So powerful. All right. Those are basically the 3 steps. First step, to recognize the dark plan. Just to be aware of it. How far you go into it. And she talks about how this step is important because the more we go into our timeline that we're on, more and more atrocities are going to be revealed. And the more we accept it, not accept it is not the right word. The more we recognize, the more we understand the dark plan, I think the less we're going to be shocked by it. And it is to our benefit to find peace now, because those who are going to be new to this are going to go through the same stages that we did. That, you know, it's really, you go down the rabbit hole and it's easy to get lost. For those of us who are walking this now, who are healing ourselves through understanding of this dark plan, we're going to be able to be the grounding force for those who are going to be going through it new as more and more is revealed. So step 2 being your declaration of sovereignty, and then 3 going into the forgiveness and gratitude and sending love to those beings, sending them love, knowing that they are connected to source just as we are. Not in acceptance, not as a victim, not in any way that diminishes our own power. But we are taking our power and utilizing it for the greatest good of all. There's our power. All right, so the next part that she got into was really my favorite part. I was so excited to hear her talk about this. You know, many of you realize how much I work with the dragons, right? Here's one. I don't know if I've shown off this one. This is opalite. Opalite's very strong with Lemurian energy. It's man-made stone, but my spiritual team said I needed to get an opalite, that it still had that Lemurian energy that would be beneficial. And she has this like rainbow effect. I don't know if you can see it. It's just amazing. And this is so inexpensive. I mean, this is like $10. It was redonkulous to get something like that I can play with and enjoy. All right. So Magenta got into the energy of the dragon. I mean, I have been working with energy of the dragon for how long? It was like 2004, I think. 2004, 2003. Gone to Sedona and was introduced to my dragons. My first dragon. I actually got 3 at the time. And since that time, I have really been trying to figure out more specifics about this energy, because what you see in mainstream media is nothing like my dragons. There's levels or strings of truth. Like, they are very wise. They're very protective. You know, a lot of time they're portrayed as hoarding treasure. But if you equate treasure to knowledge and wisdom, yeah, that's what they hoard, right? That's what they protect. And there's so many different kinds of dragons. It's almost overwhelming to me sometimes how many different kinds of dragons there are. And I've spent a lot of time trying to find other people who understand dragons the way I understood dragons. And there's been very few people that I have come across who have given me information that resonates with me. You know, Diana Cooper has done it. This is a new one that I found, and she calls herself the original dragon lady. I don't know about the original, but there's no problem. It's no problem. I'm not going to take that personal. Caroline Mitchell, she's out of the UK, and she has some dragon oracle cards. There's another gentleman out of Sedona. I think he's originally out of Europe, but he lives in Sedona now, and he works with the dragon ley lines. He's got a really great book. And, the Sophia Kaya Ra, I studied that a lot. She talks about the seraphim dragons. And that is pretty much it. And of course, Althea Aurora, who works with the elemental dragons, although she really works with more than the elemental dragons, but that's the name of her website, elementalbeings.uk.co. And those are it. Those are the only ones that I know of or have heard of that speak about the dragons as I know them. And if anybody knows of anyone else, please share it with me, because I'm always intrigued to see how people are talking about it. Dragon energy has really, really, really started to come into more mainstream, and more people are experiencing this dragon energy. So when Magenta brought this up, it's the first time I've ever heard her talk about the dragon energy, and not to say that she hasn't. It's the first time I've heard her say anything about it. I'm looking to see what she said. She said the dragon is the ecosystem of all that together is complete balanced power. Now that is a really fascinating statement. The dragon is the ecosystem. So if you can imagine like Earth is an ecosystem, the dragon is the ecosystem of all that together is in complete balanced power. So the dragon energy is celestial earth energy. And this is one thing that I learned from one of the teachers that I was just talking about, was that while angels are celestial, they come from above. Dragons come from below through the earth. They're part of the earth, but they're still celestial. But sometimes it's easier to reconcile dragon energy because it is closer to our physical being that's grounded here on earth. And so they utilize the ley lines a lot. I'm not going to go into ley lines right now, but you can research those if you would like. All right, so then she talked about how if you're an Ascension teacher, you are the dragon rider. Yes, I am. You damn Skippy, I am. I am the dragon rider. Not to say that makes me better than anyone else, but I've been doing this for a long time and they're my dragons. I get to be the dragon rider. Anyway, I'm sorry. I love my dragons. All right, so she talks about how as an Ascension teacher, we're steering the dragon. Like me and the dragon are one. And the empowerment, so like dragons are all about empowerment. They're about Kundalini energy, the golden mean, which is the golden ratio, which, that all is all big topics by themselves. But it's about the DNA activation. This is what the dragon energy is doing, the DNA activation at a very high level. So as teachers, and I'm not the only one here, everyone that's listening to me, you too are teachers in so many ways. So when we are riding that dragon, we are one with the dragon. And she described this as the DNA, the Kundalini, all creating a loop. And I even have that within my logo, the infinity loop, because there's a lot of symbolism in that. Okay, so continuing this metaphor of the dragon, as the Ascension teacher, you're riding this dragon, okay? And as you ride the dragon, there's others behind you being also on this dragon. She said, like, this is a long dragon, right? And others are behind you being carried along with you. The dragon riders are downloading information through the monadic structures. In the monadic, that's your soul, spiritual soul family. And we're teaching the templates, and these are very much energetic things that we are doing. And we're teaching how to remember who we are. We're teaching, just by me talking and you listening, in many ways, you're downloading energetics and understandings and deeper levels of recognizing yourself that you might not have otherwise. And that's not just true for me, but anybody that's talking about these topics. Anytime you talk about these topics with someone else, you are activating these things. Okay, so then she talks about how, the dragon riders, you have all these people, and she talked about there can be millions of people on the same dragon, right? Huge dragon. Those behind you along the dragon back. So like if you can imagine that the further back you are on the dragon and closer to the tail, and the tail being whipping around, because dragons are using their tail to navigate. It's not like they're trying to make it rough on the people that are on that tail. It's just the way they navigate, okay? So if you're at the top end of the dragon, you're riding the dragon at the top and the back, where the back is straight, you're able to ascend, to able to navigate these energies in a much smoother pattern than if you're on the tail of the dragon being whipped around by the energies the the back and forthness of it all. It's a much rougher ride. And the people that are back here are the ones that are unsure, the ones that aren't taking their sovereignty, the ones that are not really listening to their intuition. They are kind of in denial of seeing things that make them uncomfortable. The biggest thing we can give here is if you're feeling uncomfortable, it's a symptom that needs to be looked at. Why is it making you feel uncomfortable? If you're not looking at that, you're going to be further and further back end of the dragon, getting whipped around on the tail. Okay, does that make sense? That the more you're willing to look at your symptoms, emotional triggers, the things that making you feel uncomfortable, if you're not willing and able to speak your truth and do the things that you are feeling compelled to do, closer to the end of the dragon, to the top. Now the dragon's going to get you ascended. It will. But how smooth is your ride? How long is your ride? How uncomfortable or comfortable is your ride going to be? And the beauty of these steps is about doing this as easily and effortlessly as possible. And the more you ignore the symptoms that come up, the uncomfortableness, the inability to follow your intuition, and don't worry about, oh my God, am I not following my intuition? You know when you need to know to move forward. You do. It's when you ignore it that we get uncomfortable. All right? It's when we ignore what we already know. I hope that makes sense. Ask me questions. Go for it. So the more you ignore that, the more you're going to be towards the end of that dragon, and the more uncomfortable it's going to be, the longer it's going to take. And as she said, it's a much rougher ride. And she talks about how you need to get to the dragon's back for that easier ascension, which is doing these 3 steps. And within these three steps, I see lots of other steps that kind of that can assist you on taking, like getting to the place of being able to send love to our enemies is a huge thing. And the way you can do that, the easiest way to do that, is to work through your own garbage, to work to the point where you can love yourself unconditionally, because it is so much harder to love others unconditionally if you can't love yourself unconditionally. When you can accept yourself in your perfection, knowing who you are, what a grand being you are, then you can step into that. Then you can sit and reside in that knowingness and offer love and forgiveness, no matter what, right? So there's steps to get to that point. Those to me are the sub-steps about healing yourself so that you can get to that point, so that you can get on the back of the dragon, so that you can have an easy and effortless ascension in the speediest manner possible. And that's what we all want, right? Yes. I know I do. If you guys want to be on the tail, that's fine, but I'm going to be riding this dragon. And, I see this in many ways, it made me think about how we just have to declare our sovereignty sometimes, right? And if you think that, again, about why we're here, about remembering who we are, and for some clients, they talk about how they keep going back into the same situation over and over. And let's take, for an example, an abusive relationship. They keep getting themselves into an abusive relationship. Why? Why do they keep going back into something they know that isn't good for them? It's because they haven't declared their sovereignty. They haven't declared they no longer want that. They have said it in a way that is not with conviction. The soul doesn't believe it. So the soul will continue putting you into situations until you go, damn it, that's enough. I am done. I'm never going to do that again. I never want to be in that kind of relationship again. I am willing to walk away from whatever situation I am in because I need to take care of myself first. I have to love myself to the nth degree and put everyone else behind that love. and recognizing that when you do that, when you step into your power, when you step into that place of loving yourself, you're now projecting yourself forward where people who are looking for an abusive relationship don't even want to get near you. You're not going to be attracted to them because all of a sudden you've declared your sovereignty. And so this is the same with these steps. When you declare this, when you're done with it, when you're willing to push yourself away from it and go, I've had it. You no longer have say over this. This is me, mine, and I am in charge of this. And when you get to that point, you find peace. And then you're like, I can be loving. I can reside in a space where I can forgive others because I've had to forgive myself. I can love others, not giving them permission, not saying that it was okay, but I've had to learn how to love myself no matter what I did. I haven't been perfect throughout all this. I've done some shitty things. That was just this lifetime. When I can forgive myself and love myself, then it's so much easier to send that out to everyone else. Everyone else. Yeah, love it. That's going to make you the dragon rider. All these little steps. So the other thing that I loved what she said was that, this is a cycle, right? This is one of those things where we do the best that we can every day that we're doing this, to understand the plan, to be sovereign and be in our power and to love, and a lot of little mini steps all within that. But then going back to number one and recycling, and then it gets easier and easier and easier and easier. Yeah, God, I love this. I cannot say enough about this. I am going to come up with the sovereign statement. Like I said, I've had some examples given to me, but I want to bring together all of them and really meditate on it and come up with something amazing. And then I'll share that with everyone. So, and then right before I started this video, I was just playing with my cards and I had pulled out the mixed emotions and I was like, all right, so give me an idea of what emotion is going on right now around what I was just been talking about, these 3 steps, right? What is the most predominant emotion going on for people? And I was kind of blown away when I came to desperate. And this just literally fell out. It's not like I was looking for it. And it actually surprised me. But when I looked at it, I was like, wow, that is so appropriate. Because I think we are feeling desperate right now. It's just a weird energy vibe going on right now. We feel desperate, but for me anyway, it feels like I feel desperate, but I'm not quite sure why. I feel desperate because I feel like there's things to be doing. And yet I'm not quite clear yet on how that is all going to work out. And I'm still working with myself going, each step is perfect in what it is. And I know I'm going to get there, but there's still this little chaotic feeling of desperation. And on the bottom of it, how they describe this is frantic. Definitely. There's a frantic energy, like, it's not confusion, but it's like we get confused because of the frantic feeling. Out of control. This is huge for so many of us. This is getting on the dragon because you're on the tail of the dragon. That's when you feel out of control because that tail is whipping you around and you don't feel like you have any control of the situation. So definitely feel desperate, frantic, out of control, and a bit needy. Like, I just want the answers, I want the answers. I need this. There's a needy factor going on. And it does feel like this is the predominant energy that I'm feeling and sensing if I were to feel into the humanity on Earth right now. It's not like one person. It's just a humanity's energy. And when I look at this, it's not about necessarily what we are facing with this virus. It's deeper than that. It's more about, there's a lot of change going on right now, and I feel like the soul, the human aspect, the egoic aspect is the one feeling. It's the egoic aspect that's feeling this. It wants to be in control, and it's finding that it's not really the aspect that's in control. And this is really powerful. The egoic aspect is not the one in control. What's coming into control as we move from 3D to 5D is our heart, our intuition, our higher self that is channeling itself. You know, it can come in through the crown chakra, but really we absorb so much information from the heart because of how our auric field works. Oh yeah, it's that egoic self. It's just fighting and clawing to try to stay in control. But as we move into the 5D, that egoic self has to kind of learn its place. This is deep, because what I get from clients all the time is how their minds are constantly moving, going, questioning, talking down to them. You know, and I tell so many people, you know, I've called it the left brain, but I kind of equate the left brain to the egoic self, and that's not a medical term, okay? It was just an easy way to try to explain it. The left brain is the one that questions everything, right? It wants to analyze. It has all of its little compartments. And so when nothing fits into its compartment the way it wants to, it questions. Now, it doesn't have access to the intuitive side. That's more the right brain. That's where we pull out our imagination. That's where we access the greater knowledge and information that we have. And your left brain, it will lie to you, all right? The left brain, egoic self, lies to you. It will repeat what it's been programmed to say. As for instance, like if you grew up with a parent who said you were worthless, that said you were dirty, that you were no good, that you would never amount to anything. The egoic self, the left brain, repeats that over and over and over. Now, is that true? No. It's not true. And your intuitive self, your heart-centered self, when you feel into that, it is only unconditional loving self. It does not put these judgments on you that the egoic self, the left brain, does. And what I'll say is, like, the left brain, the egoic self, really only understands what's happened in this lifetime, while your intuitive, your heart self, knows your true higher aspects. It knows you for infinity. The left brain is only calculating the information that it's downloaded within this lifetime. So it's taken in everything that everyone's ever said to you, and maybe it's repeating that in a negative way. When we move from 3D into 5D, we have to gain control of this egoic self. We have to shut up that chatterbrain mind and tell it who is in control. Because you are. But you want your heart-centered self to be in control, not your egoic self that is just repeating and spitting out the information that was downloaded into you by some ugly person, right? You want the love. You want the unconditional acceptance and love. And to put your egoic self, to incorporate it, to integrate it into you, to work with you instead of against you. Because in the past, and still does, if you haven't taken control of it, that egoic self wants to be in control. And it's the one that's in desperation right now. Now, I pulled another card right after that, going, okay, so if we're in desperation, what's the solution? Where are we headed? What emotion is it that we are having that is the solution to this? This kind of blew my mind. I didn't even realize this card was in here. So this card says option 1, choosing from among several options. Now, this is, I think I'm supposed to use this as a header card for when you utilize these cards with clients. But what I loved about this was, if I look at this card, is the one that came out answering the question that I asked, which is, what's the answer? The answer is you choose from several options. It's not just one. It's not just one emotion I was given. It was, choose the emotion that is most appropriate for you, that you need to resolve this feeling of desperation. Yeah. I mean, mind blown. I mean, this is amazing. This is such a much more complex answer, and yet so much more all-encompassing for all of us, because we're all very unique in what we need, and to get a one answered, okay, so if I pull this one, if I just were to pull one card of being peaceful, that isn't the answer for everyone. This one was. So I love that. I thought that was amazing. So as we navigate these times, the most important thing is to learn to love yourself. I mean, I know I say this all the time, but there's so many layers to that. And I just can't talk enough about resolving your own inner landscape so that you can get higher and higher on the back of the dragon and have a smooth, easy, and quick ascension path. Love that metaphor. So I want to thank Magenta Pixie for giving us such a wonderful thing to be able to really focus on and recognize these 3 steps as the steps that we need to take to have the easiest dragon ride possible. That being said, I feel like I'm done. That was a lot, but such a valuable information. And I welcome your comments. I welcome you to subscribe if this is the kind of information that you're looking for. I have a lot more ideas about things coming down the chute, the pike, whatever you want to call it, in the future, about ways for us to deal with getting on back of that dragon and riding and enjoying the ride. It's really a beautiful thing to be able to ride the dragon and look down and fly with freedom, fly with confidence and knowingness of who we are, looking down on the beautiful nature, being able to fly interdimensionally. I mean, there's just so many options when you're on the back of a dragon. You can do anything, right? No, I can't wait. Actually, I do it anyway. It's not like I can't wait. I can't wait for all of you to join me, I guess. Yeah, I love it. All right. Talk to me. Let me know what you think, and we will continue this conversation soon. I want to send everyone many, many blessings, and namaste.